We got our day screwed up. It's a wild week in the world of Bass Talk Live. I'm headed to Clark's Hill with Daryl Gleason tomorrow to fish Clark's Hill. Then we're headed to the Masters on Friday. Got back in, so I won't be here on Tuesday. So I said, let's do a day 4, which happens to be day 4, number 198 with Frank Scalish on a Tuesday. Close. So if you don't listen to day 4, you get day 4 today. Then you know to listen to day 4. And if you listen to all of them, then you get day 4 2 days early. And then there's no day 4 on Thursday because I'll be on Clark's Hill. Did all that make sense? Frank Scalish.
We have much confusion. I have confusion too. I have a very funny story, Matt, that you are not aware of.
A very funny story that I am not aware of. I like that. I like stories that I have not heard. That I have not heard yet. There's actually a number of stories because one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is I need to tell you the story of my last weekend and then parlay that. Is that the word? Parlay that or relate that, intertwine that with what we've been talking about the last month on day 4s.
Correct.
It's a tale of hope, optimism, concern, fear, and ultimately sadness.
Okay. So, all right. So
you first.
Okay. So we went out of our way to promote the last signature series of the year, the last couple episodes.
Oh yeah, we got the bait wrong.
And I got the color wrong.
Oh, you got the color wrong or the bait wrong?
Both. I grabbed.
You got the bait and the color wrong?
Yeah, I grabbed the wrong one and promoted the wrong one. And so there was I got a bunch of DMs. Guys were confused, some angry, and hey, I'm only human, man.
So what was it?
It was St. Clair chartreuse in a deep little N was the real color, and I brought up St. Clair orange, which already broke several months ago. So hey,
I thought that bait looked somewhat familiar. And
yeah, my bad.
Is it already gone?
Oh yeah, it's gone. It was gone the day they released them.
Oh, so you're to the point now where you can promote the wrong bait in the wrong color and it still sells out on the same day. I think you need to renegotiate the contract, Frank.
Yeah,
that I would take that chip to the bargaining table next time.
I gotta
playing poker with the execs.
I have to reread the art of the deal, apparently.
I saw that there were a couple messages that were like, I'm confused. It's still a craw, but like it's a deep little end. And then I was like, no, we clearly had a
speed end.
A speed end, which we really went into how you developed that and all that.
Yeah, which dude. Am I storytelling first or are you storytelling first?
You're storytelling first.
Okay, so the speed end, right? So I have, and Matt, you got to help me out here too, because I need a little help on this one. So I had my first mouth surgery last week and didn't 100% know how it was going to go. Mm-hmm. So the only day that I could fish was on a Saturday. And I believe it was March 29th Saturday. And then, of course, Monday, I'm having my mouth surgery. So I got to fish on Saturday because I don't know if this is going to kick my ass or what. So I go and I fish on Saturday, and I get to the lake, and it's off color, rising water, not a ton of rise to it, but it probably came up about 10 inches. And the water was off color from what it usually is. It was, I would almost label it on the dirty side. I go out and I commit myself to scoping. I am legitimately, purely going to scope. Yeah. And so I have
stop by for a couple hours of scoping right on your way straight to the pits of hell.
100%, dude. I spiraled so fast it wasn't funny. So I have literally a pile of spinning rods on my deck with all different weights, sizes, everything, the whole, like, I'm committed. Okay. I'm committed. So I'm
Not full time, just because you want to try to learn a technique to where when you want to do it, you want to do it.
100%. All I'm trying to do is, I want to say perfect it, but perfect it as much as I could perfect it.
The exact same way you would go out and throw a DD22 exclusively, or say, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to wacky rig a dinger today or something like that.
Correct.
So we're just no one panic.
Don't freak out.
Do not
freak out.
This one element of Uncle Frank.
This story is going right back to conventional fishing. So anyhow, I go out and I know where I need to look, and I'm just doing all the shit, and and I come on this deep stump row. Stumps are an 18. I switch over there. I see some bait fish. I see some fish, and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to go down right off the rip. So I lob a gigantic minnow down there. It goes down, and one of them little glow balls goes, boom, and I got it. And I'm like, no way. It's like my second cast. This is insane. And it's a gumbo-sized crappie. So I go, oh my God, it's a big crappie. So I said, I'm going to take this one home and eat it. So I throw them in the live well. I see another one. I throw out there. Doink, it's another crappie. Doink, another crappie. So I'm like, okay, I'm not crappie fishing. Now the wind picks up to like 25 plus, and it starts pouring rain. I mean, pouring rain. And so
and you're out there by choice.
Yeah, I'm out there by choice. So now I've got, my striker suit on.
Yep.
The rain is coming down like sheets, like you can almost not see the front of the boat. The wind's like a hurricane, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this shit. I find a fish, and the boat's blowing over here, and I can't stay on them, and it's just a mess. Okay. So I literally hit spot lock. I put all the crap away, and I pull out some conventional stuff. I pull out my football jig. I pull out some crankbaits, an A-rig, and I'm ready to go. Now I'm going fishing. So the area of the lake I'm in, I go, well, crap, there's a good rocky bank right there. It's got wind on it, like, white cap wind on it. Let me just go there and see what I see. So I pick up a red speed end. I had two of them. I had chili bowl and ghost pepper. I pick up the chili bowl one. I fire it down the riprap. It's not riprap, it's rock. I apologize for the riprap thing. It's boulders. I fire it out there. I get like 3 reel turns off on it, and it stops. I lean in on them. It's a 3.5 pounder. I'm like, oh, okay. So I go down this little totally redeem myself. I told you we were going conventional, Clay. And so I go down a little bit farther. I catch 3 more. And I'm like, I spent 3 hours in the middle of the lake doing nothing. And the first time I go and do what I think I should be doing, I start catching them. Dude, I had 3 hours left to fish. Okay, so I'm approximately 3.5 hours wasted the morning. I got 3 hours left to fish. I caught over 50 freaking bass in 3 hours, all on the speed end. The bait is such a good cold water early spring crankbait. And here's the crazy thing. So here's where Live Scope helped me immensely. I was throwing it on 12-pound. I was using Blue Label Sunline. What's the Blue Label one called?
I believe that's the one they don't make anymore.
Yeah, it is, and I'm really bummed out about it.
Quality mid-grade fluorocarbon that was right below Sniper and Shooter.
Yeah, so I'm really bummed out about it because it cranks really well. So, but I've got like 5 bulk spools of it. There you go. That's it. Yeah. And so anyhow, so here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing about this day. So I absolutely wreck them, but here's how my live scope helped me. So the fish were not on the bank, okay? They were not like where you cast the lure and it touches the shoreline and you get a half a turn and the fish is on it. Yeah, you're going through the litany there, buddy.
I'm just showing the fish that you're talking about.
They were good fish.
Yeah, very good fish.
And so I see on a cast that I'm getting this thing down 10 feet deep. Okay. Which really it really runs that 7-8 foot range, but on Blue Label I was getting it down 10. And so here's where the bell went off. Okay. They weren't where the water meets the rocks. They were on the first break. So they hadn't pushed up yet, but they were there. And I was paralleling those breaks. And oh my gosh, any debris that was down there, if I touched the debris, I got a bass. And here's how it went down. I would catch one, then I would catch another one. I would advance the boat and I would catch 12 in a row. And then I would run to another area of the lake and find the same type of bank. And it was the same thing. I would catch maybe one or two, and then all of a sudden I would catch 10 to 12 in a row.
Holy smoke. So it was stacked up.
It was a freak show. Okay. The fish they wanted to go, but they didn't go. The weather turned bad. It got super cold. Here, the water temperature was literally 43 degrees when I started. And when I ended, it was 45. And so that's how it went. So then Monday comes and I get the mouth surgery and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to kick my ass. And so it wasn't bad at all. And then later it felt like I got kicked in the head by a horse. And then in the morning, I woke up Tuesday morning and I'm like, no pain. I ran outside, I hooked the boat up and I went back to this lake. Okay. Now there's supposed to be no rain and the wind was supposed to be light and variable. I get out to the lake. It's snowing like crazy. And it's windier than belief. Like it's blowing. So I go, okay, I literally got one jig of minnow on the boat and two speed ends. And I go out and literally duplicate the day.
Really? That's fun. There's nothing like that first day of the spring. Like here in Oklahoma, we fish year round and catch them. But like, I grew up in Illinois, so there's an off season. And there's nothing like that first time out where you just crack them after it's been about 3 months, 3 or 4 months.
God, yeah. We were so locked in. Like normally I'll fish all winter out of the boat. I'll bust ice to get out. There'll be open water, jerk baits, A-rigs. I mean, it's money. It's money time. But we've had unbelievable amounts of precipitation. Everything is muddy. The jerk bait bite was non-existent. We froze right away. And there was no fishing. Okay?
After you didn't freeze at all last year.
Yeah, and last year I fished the whole year. So it was crazy. And so I'm so excited to be in that boat again. Like I'm like a kid. It's so bizarre. I mean, I'm an old fart, man, and I'm like, I vibrate. I'm driving to the lake and I'm nervous because I want to go catch fish. So
that's good.
Yeah, that was cool. That was really cool.
Could you? So those fish that you're catching on the speed end, do you think you were firing them up when you hooked one? I mean, how would you picture them positioned down there when you're catching them every cast?
Okay, so here's what I realized, okay, because I use all my electronics to my advantage. Right. Side imaging, 2D, scoping, everything's to my advantage. So what I found was the banks that had almost a 45-degree tilt to them would go down to about 7 feet of water, and then there'd be a little flat that came out, and then they dumped down into the main river channel.
And they were bellies on the bottom, right on that 7 foot?
Yeah, they were plastered to it. And any debris that was there, whether it was stumps, brush,
I got you.
rock, if I touched the debris, all I had to do is pause the bait. Like I hit something, I pause the bait, and it'd be like, and I'd have one.
So it was if you pause it, there was a feeding bite, not a reaction bite, but it was a feeding bite that was based off of a reaction bite that made him go, oh, and then boom.
Yeah, because here's why it came 1, 2, and then a pile of them.
Yeah.
The structure that I was looking at was creek channel swings that came in and swung out. And so they were piled right on the steepest part of the break. They weren't down on the break. They weren't suspending off of it, but they were relating right to the edge.
Yeah.
And so by paralleling it, I'm bringing my bait through the strike zone the entire way back to the boat.
And were you using, obviously mapping to figure out where those spots are, but were you using the scope then to find the trash to know where you needed to make the cast? Because you'd be like, oh, there's
100%.
something out there. So then you'd cast, even though you might not have been watching it, hit it, you knew that you were going to go over whatever you were seeing in front.
100%. That's how I use it to conventionally fish. So what before I had that, what I would do is I would go look at my map clearly. I would see where the contours get tight. I'd know it's steep. I'd go there to fish, and what I would do is I'd take my trolling motor, I'd slide up. As soon as I started coming up the incline, I'd back the boat off again and then cast where I assume the break line is. If I don't hit anything, my next cast would be closer to the bank, and I would work my way in till I start hitting that edge line. That's how I do it with 2D sonar. But with forward facing, I can see it. So I'm like, oh, I got to cast over there. Boom. I hit it right away. And any debris that I see, what used to happen was I would side image it and I would put a flag on all the debris.
Okay. Yep. And then you would go back and you would know you're somewhere around there. It just might take you 3 or 4 before you bounced it off of it. So you're just 100%. Way more efficient. You're able to go faster and you don't have to dive past them first.
Right. Which is why I got to cover a lot of water in such a short amount of time.
Mark, it's a Tuesday, but we're doing day 4 on a Tuesday just to keep things fresh and entertaining.
Dude, you overslept for 3 days.
We now do day 4 on Tuesdays and promote baits that sold out 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That's where we've reached on
the year of confusion. So anyhow, day 4 to me, this is the one of the funnest parts of my whole entire week. To do this with you, Matt. This is like, to me, this is the funnest thing. So my son, Noah, lives in Raleigh, and he's a fireman in Station 1 in Raleigh.
I think we've had Noah on one time before. No, I know we've had Frankie and Josh, and I thought one time.
No, Noah doesn't fish.
I know he doesn't fish, but I think he was on one time where he was talking about the time you guys went fishing.
It could have been. We could have. So anyway, so he sends me a picture of a week or so ago of his fire chief and a bunch of firemen. They had day 4 on the screen.
Nice.
In the fire station, and they're watching it. And so the funniest thing is that he calls me all the time. And when my kids call me, 99% of the time I pick up immediately. So.
I would confer with that, even when you're fishing, because there have been times when we're fishing and you go, crap.
Yes.
but it's because you always answer, not because you didn't want to talk to him, but like, we're tracking down a big crappie and I'm like, guess I'm catching this one, Frank.
Yeah, 100%. So anyhow, Noah they wanted to know what the best fishing sunglasses were. And so Noah says, I'll call him. He always answers. I'll call him. Well, he called me twice. One time we were live, so I didn't answer him. Okay. And the other time I was on a conference Teams meeting with Pradco going over the new lures and stuff. So I couldn't answer it. So 2 times in a row to his fire department, I stiffed them. So they make fun of them. Yeah, they make fun of them like like it's their job. So I said, okay, I gotta throw you a solid, have the guys in the station watch it, and then I'll give them a shout out, and we're gonna bloviate for 5 seconds on sunglasses. All right. So here we go, guys, at station number 1 in Raleigh. This is for you. I don't care what brand of sunglasses you use. All right. Here's the rule of thumb. It has to be real polarized lenses. All right. For almost all my fishing requirements, I prefer amber, not black or smoke. Amber. Amber has a tendency to wash out some of the browns in the bottoms, and you could see the fish better. I learned this steelhead fishing when I got my first set of amber lenses, and I could see fish nobody was seeing. That's when I really learned the power of amber. Now, here's the other thing. Because they're in North Carolina, they have ocean. They have ocean near them. If you're offshore in the ocean, use blue lenses because it washes away the blue and you could see the fish better. If you're red fishing in the backwaters, go back to amber because amber will wash away the browns and you'll see the fish better. Anyhow, so that's it. Like I said, don't care the brand. All I care about is they have to be really polarized lenses. And then you choose the lens according to what your bottom is, and you'll be able to see the fish better.
I'm talking to Juice right now. So did you go up to Lucky Lure Tackle at the Classic a couple weeks ago?
Absolutely, 100%.
Did you see the dude who owns it was up there? I talked with him for a long time. Did you see those sunglasses?
I did not.
They're polarized, but they're specifically designed to where it enhances your screens through the lenses.
Oh, so you don't
have to be taken, like even if the sun's on there, you know how the screen disappears. Yes. These make the screen pop. And they're high quality. Yeah, I was trying. That's why I was on my phone here. I was texting Juice to see if he could remind me of what that brand was. But I was very intrigued with those because of not only their polarization in the lenses, but they had them specifically for a lens for sunny, bright conditions that made everything pop instead of wash out.
Yeah, I wonder how that works when the screens get wet from water.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you get all the glare on them then?
Yeah. Jody White says yellow lenses are clutch when it's dark out. I agree. I've had all 100%. Of them. Like we have no affiliation with a eyewear company at this time. So I've been through Oakley's, Smith Optics.
Yep.
Costas.
Solar Bats back in the day.
I've never worn Solar Bats, a myriad of different sunglasses throughout the time.
Yeah, I'm currently running Oakley's right now.
And I mean, there's pluses and negatives to all of them, but primarily pluses. I mean, I feel like now the sunglass game is almost like the fishing rods, to where there's a handful of companies that all make very comparable high quality, and you take it based on what frame fits, what technology, whether you want to go with the P or the G, the level of polarization and things. So
yeah, I like a little bit of side wrap to them.
Yep.
Because I don't want the glare coming in from the side.
I'm not as big as that on that in the summertime, but definitely when you're trying to look into the water, the wrap is key on that. So.
But yeah, so that was it. So shout out to Raleigh Fire Station 1.
That's very cool.
Yeah, had to do it. I had a really successful locker room the other day. I had Nick and David on, and they're from California, and they picked a couple of lakes to go over, lakes that I clearly never have ever seen in my my life, and it was fascinating to see the lakes across the country. It fascinates me. Like, we're talking 200-foot deep lakes.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating to see what different types of bodies of water are out there. But it was a great coaching session. Guys were great. We wound up BSing so hard we ran quite a bit over, but that's okay. It was fun. Yeah. So, I mean, if you found the glasses?
Yeah.
All right, throw them up there. Let's look at them.
Hold on. Let me make sure I do this right.
All right, you do that.
Purpose-built optics.
Okay.
These intrigued me. Like I said, I don't have a pair, but I liked what he was putting down. And Juice, highly recommended by Juice. But like I've said before, Juice is colorblind, so take that for what it's worth. But like,
so he's like, I don't understand the color palette.
I think, there's been a number of guys that have been colorblind before. Like a lot of good sight fishermen are colorblind because they could see the contrast and for some reason. Like you can see the contrast of movement, but it's like, see how you can anyway, they have different lenses based on, whether you're offshore, whether you're freshwater fishing, inshore fishing. There's electronics, so if you want to be able to see your graph better. Anyway, I thought they were very interesting. If anybody has tried those, well, I mean, I've got a ringing endorsement from Juice, and he bought them. It's not like they gave them to him, so we got nothing there.
Do they put your prescription in them?
I don't know.
Probably. They all do.
Yeah, you can do like a lens selector on here, but it looked interesting.
That's cool. That's good.
I tried them on there, super light.
That's another
dude seemed like he knew what he was talking about.
I like the light ones because I hate when they press down on the bridge of your nose.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to get nose pad marks and it hurts at the end of the day.
Or you look like Hank Parker when he won his second classic.
Yeah. Like a raccoon.
You got the hat so high like that. You remember when that was the style?
Yeah.
I think the only one still rocking it like that now is Todd Auten. Todd Auten is like, I'm sticking with it. The high hat.
Hey, only certain dudes can pull that off.
I always like to think there's like a pack of Marlboro Reds underneath the apex of the hat there.
Dude, when I did that a lot of times fly fishing on the flats in saltwater, I put my flies in Ziploc bags and put them inside my hat, so I could travel light. I had
I think I sold a pair of sunglasses that we're not even sponsored by. I liked them. I meant to get back up there, and then or that I basically fainted at the classic on the final day and wasn't able to get back up there. I told that story.
Yeah, that was tough, dude.
Yeah.
That was tough. My heart went out to you.
Yeah,
but you rallied that night.
Not the
next
adult
night.
beverage wise, I rallied just to go out for dinner wise. Remember, I went through like a gallon of sweet tea that night.
Yes, you were pounding it like it was your job.
I did not have a cold one for a week after the classic.
Holy!
Not that I overindulged at the classic, but it was just consecutive nights of social interactions.
Right, it's a constant flow. It's not
like I couldn't imagine doing like Trailer Rick. He went to Redcrest this past, like that's his jam, obviously, right? But like I couldn't imagine like the people whose job is to do shows and appearances and entertain week after week after week in a different city. Like I don't know how you don't completely just lose all sense of direct, like centered in that.
Well, you do. When I was with OSI, part of my job was to go do all these golf outings and stuff with the big box stores. OSI made sealants and adhesives for contractors and subcontractors. And so my whole job was to create relations.
There's the man himself.
There's Trailer Rick, man. So my job was to entertain with these, Home Depot, Lowe's, et cetera, and how it would work is I would be at a bass event, and then I would get home, and on my computer would be plane tickets, and I would have to fly to Vegas or wherever, Atlanta, wherever the functions were, and then go, and then party hardy with the buyers to all these places. And there came a point in time where, like I said, in my lifetime, I would never go to Las Vegas because I hate the place. I wound up going there 6 times in 1 year. And
is that how you ended up with the neck tattoo?
No, the one across my back.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, Uncle Frank it says Uncle Frank in Old English script across like where the hockey jersey name would be. And then he has, sure. And then it's him holding up 2 6-pound smallmouth shoulder blade to shoulder blade underneath it. And then right underneath that, right above the back, is the Lure Net logo.
Yeah, that's where the tramp stamp is.
It's an entire back piece. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, one errant evening. Oh, this is a family show, or I'd give you some sign language right now.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
But yeah, so it was grueling, and I came home one day from, it's red eye flight down there, red eye flight back. I came home one day and I said, enough of this. I can't do it anymore. And I was younger then and could keep up with the best of them. And I said, no, I can't do it anymore. Yeah, it loaded to the cork would make an awkward tramp stamp. Absolutely. Yeah.
Really quick, speaking of that, we are in works for your next product drop line. That'll be in June is when we'll drop the limited edition Frank SCALISH hat. Excellent. The patch hat. There's 100 of them because we had to buy the patch hat, and then the structural element t-shirt. Yeah. Have you shown this yet?
No. Should I tease it?
Yeah, absolutely. Tease it.
So structural element is going to be the contour map in the background of the lettering.
And that will be on, I would assume, a black t-shirt.
Yeah, and I'm debating whether to make the lettering white with blue contour lines or just make the lettering white with black contour lines. That's the debate that I'm having.
Show it one more time. Got people want it. I think that is one of the coolest designs that we've had.
And you can see I actually took it from a real map, so you could see the structure. You could see that the contour lines follow through all of the, they match up, they line up. So what I did was I just took a contour map, laid out my type, put the contour map in the background, and then burned out everything around the letters.
Drunkwood would like that in a tie-dye tank top.
For jet skiing only.
I think we will probably bring back the fishing shirts. That's the one that you've got on. Which one do you have on right now?
I have.
Is that all three or just the largemouth?
No, just
Don't pull anything. Don't break anything.
Just that, the largemouth.
To me, I've got that shirt. That to me is like. So we're gonna bring that one back too.
Yeah, but I want black with the smallmouth on it.
Okay, we could do the smallmouth. I will take this opportunity to say right now the reason why that Uncle Frank stuff hasn't dropped now is currently on the Bass Talk Live website. So you just go to basstalklive.com, shop BTL, enter the store. It is open through the 19th. And if you just want your general BTL merch right here, it's just that black t-shirt, classic heavyweight hoodie, the classic hat for $25. And then there's a rubber patch, Richardson 112. There's only 100 of those, but this is the big deal right here. And this is only through the 19th, the 4th year that we've done this. I talked about this before. It is currently live on the site. The BTL supports St. Jude Bass Fishing Saves Lives t-shirt, multiple 4 different colors there. Nice. Work with, hold on a second. Let me make sure I can get this. There you go.
I like the olive one.
Yeah, no, they did a really good job on this, and 100% of those proceeds of the profit from that goes to, I have to they take out, could they give us the shirt at a discount for this? And then 100% of that goes to St. Jude. It's the 4th year that we've done this, and you order it and it closes on the 19th, and then they print it all on one run so you can maximize all that money for St. Jude. So if you guys have any desire to do that, that's how you get to that. I'll also put the link in the show afterwards.
Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I met the gals from St. Jude's at the Classic. They're great, man.
Yeah, they do
big sports. They were good.
Yeah, they do like Super Bowl stuff, World Series stuff, all sorts of like championships, but then pretty much anything in the industry. Not I want to say that. A large percentage of the industry that you see, which is like branded apparel and stuff, or Bass Cat, different brands, stuff like that, all runs through that factory up in Michigan.
That's perfect.
Yep, really cool stuff.
So what happened? You were going to say a story?
Was I just going to tell you about my weekend then? Is that your story?
Well, you said you were going to talk about what went down at the tournament.
Oh, so I thought I was, so this last open I had, it ended up, it was Lake Norfolk, the 3rd stop, 240 boats in it, full field. And I ended up finishing 146, like in an 8-way tie. I had a limit for 9 pounds, 12 ounces to 13 pounds to cash a check. Casey Scanlon wins with 18.5. I'll be on a plane tomorrow morning. The Casey Scanlon show will run tomorrow morning on BTL, where he goes into it. Old school tournament, Ozark Flash spinnerbait, painted blades on one side, hammered gold willow on the other, unpegged 5/16 ounce 4-inch flipping tube in the rocks on channel swings and banks up the river that were rapidly changing and rising on the way. Anyway, you can listen to that. It was an awesome pattern. And he's an Ozark dude, right? But couple things happened in that tournament that I wanted to run by you, because it reminded me of several day 4 episodes that we'd had, Frank. And the first was all of my fish, every single fish that I found in practice. And like I said, I thought it was probably one of my best practices that I'd had, even with the changing conditions in 2-3 years. Like, I thought I can start out with 13, 14 in the morning. If couple big bites, either smallmouth or largemouth, get up to 15, 16. Like my target weight was 15 pounds. So I thought we were going to fish 2 days, and I thought 30 pounds, I'd top 10 it. It was interesting because there are hundreds of drains on Lake Norfolk.
Oh yeah.
And it almost reminded me a little bit of Norman, just as far as all the little pockets and the things on the back. But and there was bait in the back of 10% of them.
Was the bait in the live drains or the still drains?
This is where it gets interesting. There was bait in both of the drains, but it was only in like 5 per. Like, if you went into 50 drains, you would find bait in 3 of them. But in some of the drains, it would be more towards like where it necks down. Mm-hmm. In some of the drains, it would be a dead end drain, like with a wall, and they would have it pushed to the very back and they'd be feeding underneath it. And then in others, it would be scattered through the live drain that was a little bit more. So I was not ever able to identify which type of drain I needed to go to the backs of. So I ended up trying to go to the back of every single one because I didn't want to miss them.
Right. Which is fair.
Yeah. Now in the tournament, what happened, and I found 6 drains that had little 1.5-inch shad in it, and the fish were clearly relating to the shad. I was actually using the little crappie bait. I was using a little crappie bait to mimic those shad. But in the tournament, on the first morning, I went to my 2 best drains, and I don't know why, because for 3 days the bait had been packed up. The fish were all surrounding it. You know, like a sheepdog around the bait. I go to my first drain first morning. I actually had a good boat draw. It was boat 22. I set the boat down 150, 200 yards from the back of this drain. And all of a sudden, they're blowing up, but they're blowing up in the open area, not in the back of the drain. And they never set up on the tournament day. And I don't know why they never set up. I mean, I caught 7 keepers. I had 3 in the first 5 minutes, but they were smaller and they never pushed the bait back. Is that a sunlight thing? Is that because there was more water coming in, even if it was a dead end drain? I couldn't figure out why, after it had been the same for 3 days. It was like someone put a stick of dynamite down there and went boom, and there'd be little pieces of bait with 2 or 3 fish on each, and they never grouped up all day.
Okay, so here it goes. So remember the shad shows we did with gizzard shad, threadfin, and blueback herring, right?
Correct.
So it was if it was a sunny day.
Yeah, they were all threadfin. They're about 1.5 inches.
Right, that's what I was going to say. If it was a sunny day, it was the threadfin, because the threadfin come up in the sun, where the gizzard shad will go down in the sun. And so that indicated to me right there it was threadfin. And so that'll do that. They'll come out, they'll get over the open, the ditch, they'll get out, they'll get up, and it spreads the bass out. Where in the overcast cloud, they'll go down and they'll push to the back, and the bass can corral them then. So I think it was more predicated on weather. There you go. Oh, dude, that's money. Oh, yeah, that's money, dude.
And I was catching them on a tiny, tiny little thing.
Yeah, that's good. So, yeah, I think it was predicated on the weather, not so much the current runoff. Was it dirty water coming in or clean?
It was chalky.
Okay. Because the other thing is threadfin can't handle the dirty water coming in, so they'll stay out in front of the mud line.
A lot of sense, Frank. I never even thought about that. So those bait fish that had been back there that the bass had corralled left overnight because there was so much water that was coming in. There was water coming in all the drains.
Right.
Left as that dirtier water came in, and then those bass that had been in groups below them splintered and fractured up. And when they started going through the bait fish, instead of the bait fish getting tighter and further back in, which the only way they could do that is if they got into the dirtiest water in the area, which still wasn't dirty, but it was dirtier.
Threadfin can't handle the dirty water.
So that was one. So you answered that question. So here's the next thing that happened. It was a dicey weather.
Oh yeah, you guys got dumped on.
So we take off. We know there's storms coming. I think we did the right thing by taking off. But that being said, I set the boat down. I pick 3. There's a 13-inch limit on everything. I literally, like, my first 5 casts, I pull one off on the very first cast. I have no idea how big it was. Didn't feel like a giant. Then I catch a 14-inch largemouth, then a 14-inch smallmouth, then a 14-inch spotted bass. So in the first 10 minutes of fishing, I got 3 14-inchers in the box that I know I need to cull out, but it's cool. It's the quickest I've ever caught the trifecta in a tournament.
Yeah, that's tic-tac-toe, man.
Then it gets that kind of eerie out, and then I was down by the dam, right by the dam, cloud to ground lightning 100 yards away from me. Like a no screw around lightning.
Yeah.
And I yanked the trolling motor, put my rods down, have to run across the lake about 3 minutes, get under a slip, and sit there for 30 minutes. And I'm like,
don't blame
whatever.
me.
I got 3. I'll go back and pick them off. It's totally different than it had been because it had been like a 1 cast deal. I'm just going to have to look for them now more. I go back after half an hour. There's not a single bass to be found in that entire cove. Was
the bait still there?
The bait was still there. It was the weirdest thing ever. The bass that had been 2s and 3s that were very clearly bass, it was black screen.
Those bass might have went right to the bank, taking cover on the bank.
Does that affect them? Does the big thunderclaps, does the lightning affect those open water fish? And it was 12 foot of visibility down there where I was.
I think it does. I mean, I was on Champlain one time and we had a lightning storm and lightning and thunder came in, and all of a sudden it was manna from heaven. I was jerk baiting, and I was catching smallmouth after smallmouth after smallmouth. And then all of a sudden a lightning bolt hit the water about 200 yards away from us, and the thunder was instant. Like the lightning came down and bam, and like your guts vibrated out. So I ran the boat up the bank. There was a pocket with cabins in it. So I ran the boat up the bank and literally just slid it on the beach, and we jumped out and we took shelter under one of the cabin roofs there until the thunder and lightning stopped. When it stopped, we went back out there, caught nothing.
Yeah.
And right before we were catching them every single throw.
And it was interesting. So I talked to a couple other guys who were on the same type of pattern, right? That started in different drains. I picked a bad drain, Frank, and ended up what happened. Because these guys that I talked to had between 12 and a half and 14 pounds in the first 30 minutes of the morning. And then they said those fish ceased to bite. Yeah. And they're within a mile and a half of me too. But they secured a top 40 finish because it was a 1-day tournament on that. They went 2 3/4, 3.5, 2 pounder, 2 pounder, 4 pounder. Whereas I went pound and a half, pound and a half, pound and a half.
Yeah. And here's the problem. It turns into a 1-day event.
Yeah. But I was just curious on the fish behavior outside of the tournament. Like, even if I'd been fun fishing, I thought it was very interesting. How the bait that had been so consistent, even when it was overcast, was so different on the tournament day, which you explained. And then B, why it went from, I'm going to cull through 30 fish today to, my God, let's catch 5.
Yeah. I mean, threadfin are really susceptible. Threadfin and blueback herring are very susceptible to water clarity changes.
Yeah.
Threadfin can't survive in dirty water, and neither can bluebacks. So they're always in front of the dirt line. Okay.
Which would explain why they were further out getting blasted, because right where that milky water, that dirtier water kind of started. It wasn't blown out, but it was definitely dirty. And when I found them, it was crystal clear back there.
Yeah. And here, gizzard shad, on the other hand, can thrive in that dirty stuff. So if the primary bait source was gizzards, they'd have been all the way in the back of there, feeding on all the, plankton that's getting washed in. They would have been there gorging themselves. So that's the, in the locker rooms I make sure the guys know what kind of bait fish are in the lake, because that's going to affect things down the road. Really cool. So I thought that you guys had high water episodes there.
We did, but we fished the first day and the water came up like a foot.
Yeah, that's not.
And then the second and third day, when we didn't fish, it would have been 3.5 foot higher. And then by the third day, it would have been 11 foot higher. So it was planning on coming up 6.5 feet while we were fishing on day 3, which great cancellation. Like, I mean, we didn't, everyone was like, okay, it's a new lake, but it just was unsafe.
Yeah. So when we were on Table Rock, and
this is where you were smashing them, and then they canceled the tournament.
Yeah, dude, it was.
And then you smashed them after the. Is this when you just told this story before I went to this? They were schooling.
Yeah. Well, what happened was I found these smallmouth. They were staging. They were pre-spawn smallmouth. I found them on gravel points, inside channel swings, and they were all 15 feet deep. And I rolled over them on 2D sonar, and I could see the spaghetti down there. So I knew exactly what they were. I backed the boat around, and I was throwing a 4-inch dinger on a very light jig head and absolutely annihilating them. So I would hook one and fight them to the boat, and there'd be 10 with them. So I would leave the spot and go look for another one. I honed in on the pattern so good that I could literally run down the lake and go, they're going to be over there. I'd whip in there. I'd make a cast. I'd hook one. There'd be a million with them. I'd mark it. I'd leave. I'd go. And this is how my day was going. Well,
Right.
the next day I get up, I launch the boat, and I'm like, what the hell? The water's way up the ramp. So the water had come up 6 feet overnight. And so I'm like, holy crap, what's that going to do to the fish? Well, I'm not running to look at fish I already found. I'm running to find new fish. Well, what happened was I was catching them 15 feet deep the first day of practice. And so the second day of practice, the fish were 21 feet deep, not because they moved out, but because the water came up on them. So what happened, the first couple of areas I went and checked, I went to the 15-foot mark, even though the water was the high zone. So I went to that 15-foot mark. The bass weren't there. As I was sliding up on one of the points, in 21 feet, I saw all the spaghetti again. And then I realized that the bass aren't moving up with the water. They're staying put. So by the third day, the fish were, by the last day of practice, the fish I was catching were 27 feet deep, but they never moved. That's how much the water was coming up. So what happened was, this is no lie. Mark Tucker calls and he's like, dude, they're canceling the tournament. You have to get off the lake. They're closing the lake. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, they're closing the lake. And I said, well, I'm not getting off the water yet. If this tournament's over, I'm going to catch fish. So I didn't really believe him. The tournament was over. And then Bassmasters called and said, tournament's canceled, dangerous flooding, blah, blah, blah. You got to leave the lake. So I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, not thinking. I'm like, yeah, okay. Hang up the phone, and I go blow past everything. I run to one of my good spots, and I start cracking on them. And I'm catching like 18, 19 pounds every time I shut the boat down. So I run into Crete, and Crete's there, and I go, dude, put your boat in the marina, get in the boat, let's go fishing. He's like, are you on them? I go, dude, it's sickening how many I'm catching. And then he goes, no, we got to leave. They're shutting the lake down. So he leaves. I go to another spot and start whacking on him again. And then I'm like, I better go. I'm the only one out here. I don't see another soul. I better go. I go back to where I had launched my boat. There's no boat ramp in sight. And my truck, the water is up to the wheels on my truck in the parking lot.
Is the one that you had the 16-inch lift on in 34s?
Yeah, no, I literally drove my boat on the trailer in the parking lot. Yeah, and the ranger was locking the gate to the ramp, and I had to get him. I had to yell at him to flag him down to come and open the lock so I could get out. And then, sure enough, Branson, Missouri flooded.
One of the cool things, so I would assume that Deep Dive had like pretty much all the open guys who didn't have the app beforehand sign up for it at the open this week.
I would,
because one of the cool things that they have is the lake level. So look at on the Deep Dive app. Look at the where is it?
There it is.
Look at the lake level.
Oh,
so there's
God.
Wednesday was our off day. It was 0.2. Thursday was the first day of the tournament. You can see it only jumped up a foot, but that was enough to make it, you know, it was when we ended practice, it was 0.21 feet low. Because one of the cool things on here is you can take the slider and you can slide exactly what the lake has done. You see that?
God, yeah, that's priceless. Dude.
So like on Thursday, when we were done fishing, it went from 0.2 foot low to 0.52 foot high. Then from Thursday, 7 p.m. to Friday, 7 p.m., it was up 3.5 feet. So then Saturday, we were supposed to take off at 7 a.m. or we put the boat in the water. So Saturday, it was 6 foot high when Saturday happened. By the end of Saturday, it was 12 foot high.
Oh, man. That's a lot of water coming in.
6 foot coming in.
Yeah, that's a lot of water coming in.
Yeah. So what I was doing was I was looking at the stream flows for all of the
drains you were fishing,
for all of the drains, right?
Yeah.
So if you go up to like this creek arm, this is current right now, but on that deep dive app, and I'm doing it on my phone because this is how I did it on the tournament. You can do that. You can say, okay, well, I want to see what's coming in on that creek. And then you click on the creek and it shows you, whoa, come on. It shows you what the flow is. So now it's slowed down because all the
this app is incredible.
But I'll show you exactly where I was. So I was down on the lower end of the lake because I said, boy, there's a lot of stream flow that's putting a lot of water in. It's going to get muddy. I was like 24 hours late. So I focused on these cuts right here because it didn't have anything flowing into it. So like if you saw like, just up the river, like boom, that shows that there's an active creek that was flowing into it. And then you could click on it and you can see exactly how much water was flowing into it. So I'm on the water going, okay, this is a drain that's going to stay clearer than this drain because this drain is expected to have this much water coming in and stuff. So I like got really, and now I may have overthunk myself a little bit, but like I thought it was a pretty strong.
It's pretty
strong game plan.
It's a pretty strong game plan, and then if you throw the water conditions up there on top of it all,
that's the one thing on that. It was cloudy for like 4 or 5 days with only one sunny day, so it hadn't been like totally updated.
Gotcha. So here's the thing. So let's take the information that you gave so far, right?
Yep.
So the lake's loaded with thread fins.
Yep.
If it was a gizzard shad lake, you would be running in all those active drains instead of trying to.
And some of the guys up lake where I think they had some gizzards in there. I saw some guys posting and stuff. They sought out the most active drains that they could on Thursday up lake and threw spinner baits and crankbaits and swim baits in those active drains for those fish that were feeding on it. Very similar to what you've talked about happens at Table Rock.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the thing, and the gizzard shad in the winter will migrate up the rivers and migrate up the river system. That's another thing that you, we did the shad shows. It's all in there. It's detailed beyond belief.
That's what I said this whole week. Like there was so much stuff that I like tried to implement from day 4. I was like, dude, it felt right. Like I literally was just like, damn, that should have panned out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I did anything wrong. Yeah, I obviously did because I finished 140th out of 230, but like,
you can't say you'd have done it any different because you didn't know when you were doing it. We talk about so much stuff on day 4. There's a lot of times when I go out and I just space things. Too, you know what I mean? It's just happens. It's nature of the beast. It doesn't always flow freely sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much information out there and so many things that you got to dial in on. I personally would look at what you did in that event and I would say, not based on results, but based on how you approached it, I would say A+ for how you broke it down, what you were looking for. C- on maybe not covering enough areas. When conditions were changing, to bail and just go redo it. You know what I mean? Which is the hardest thing in the world to do. Is it's super hard to redo something when you've had success with it literally a couple days earlier.
Now, this is the funny part. So I had like 8.5 pounds for my best 5. And I run back to an area and it's got legit riprap in the back of it, right? Just for like 50-yard stretch. I had a spinning rod with nothing tied on. I had 5 minutes left to fish. Not exaggeration. I'm like, I've cast, I've scoped, like I committed to the scope. And I'm like, there ought to be fish at the base of this riprap. I've got 5 minutes. Like I've just cast a 50 fish in here. Not 50, but I've looked around. I'm not seeing what I like. I pull out a freaking 32nd ounce Ned head. put a Ned rig on it, literally make 2 casts. And on the second cast, I lift it up and I'm like, and it goes, and it was a freaking like 270. It was my biggest fish of the day. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I put it in the box, made like 4 more casts, broke it off in the rocks. And then that was my tournament. I was like, but I was like, if I hadn't scoped, would I have figured out the drains power fishing? Would I have thrown that Ned more on transit? Like, I don't know. It is what it is.
Well, but that's what I said when you said that you couldn't find them anymore. That's what I said. Sometimes they'll slide to the bank.
So get this. This is very interesting. So the area where I thought I was going to crush him, there's a boat that wanted to start in there. And then he came back in, but he didn't. He turned around because I was out in the middle doing figure eights. And then he came back in after I'd left, and I went back in. Then we never close enough to talk to each other or anything, but we were in the same cut, right? And he was slow dragging. It was Moyna. He was in Bridgeford sitting down. I mean, it looked like Jim Moyna all the way. I think there's only 3 Bridgeford boats. I think there's Moyna, Brian Partek, and Matt Steffen. So Moyna was dragging, and he spent hours in there too. Like, cause I would just run back cause I'd be like, oh, maybe that shad gets grouped up. But I was like, I thought that I was like, dude, he's might have figured out where these fish went. Cause I mean, painfully slow stuff. He wasn't casted and reeling. I had 912 and I think he had 913. He had like within 2 ounces of me. And he was in the same stuff dragging. And we all know Jim Moyna can catch fish.
Yeah, so just those pockets just the big ones didn't. They either went to the bank or bailed.
Well, he was dragging on the bank. Like he was in the same exact areas that I was minnowing looking for the fish on bait.
Gotcha.
He was molasses slow fishing through those. Because I went in there because there was like one little stretch where all the bait was, right?
Yeah.
And he was there, but he was dragging through it. So it made me feel better that I didn't miss it. Like if he had come in with 17 or 18, I'd have been like, oh my God, like
yourself in the eye.
Right. So, anyway, that's some fish stories, a bunch of different stuff. Like I said, a day 4 on a Tuesday. I'm headed to a herring lake. Or fish on nice. Hopefully tomorrow afternoon. I fly out at like 6 a.m. Gleason picks me up, and then we go catch some herring fish. Perfect. And then we fish all day Thursday, and then Masters on Friday. So
yeah, the herring fish are cool. Most of them will be about 4-pounders.
I'm hoping that the herring are spawning this time, the first week of April.
Yeah, you'll catch a lot of the herring runners are 3.5 to 4.5 pounds. Good, solid quality fish. Yeah. It'll be fun, man. Hey, you guys, if you want to do a locker room coaching session, just DM me at SCALISH_fishing, and we'll set something up
on Instagram. Do you want to give your email or not?
I don't want to give my real email away.
Okay. If you don't have Instagram, because Frank doesn't do the Facebook thing either, you can, Blake can go into the Masters on Friday with Daryl Gleason. We'll do some shows on it. You can email me, and I've forwarded you several emails. Yeah. Matt, M-A-T-T, at Bass Zone, B-A-S-S-Z-O-N.
So how long are you gone, dude?
I'm back for Saturday morning.
Oh gosh, fast and furious.
Wednesday, man. Thursday, Friday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That'll be fun.
It will be fun. Thanks for altering. I know you are a man of routine. So I'd like to thank you for altering your schedule.
Always, dude. I don't, anything, anytime. We're good.
This has been another edition of Day 4 with the man Frank SCALISH. Will we be back next Thursday?
What's the date? Let's talk about date real quick.
April 17th? Yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be back.
All right. We'll see you then. See you, Frank.
Good luck, bud.